Welcome to the Joy School Podcast. Real talk about what it takes to create your happiest, healthiest, and most dynamic life. And now, here's your host, transformational life coach, happiness strategist, and best-selling author, Christy Ling Spencer.
Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode. Thank you so much for being here with me. I'm so happy to everyone who tunes in and hangs out with me each week. You guys are amazing, and I really appreciate all the notes on social media, and keep them coming because I read all the reviews, I read all the comments, and I really appreciate them so much. And I'm so happy to hear when something on the show hits with you and resonates or maybe inspires new ideas. That just means everything to me. So thank you for being here. I love this community and I love you all so much. And I am hanging out up in the mountains this week, spending a great deal of time here working remotely this summer, and it is so beautiful. The sky is blue, the birds are out, there are tall pine trees all around, and it is just really a little slice of heaven. I was even thinking I maybe need to hike off into the forest and record a podcast episode for you all from the middle of the forest. How cool would that be? Might have to do that this week. So, in the meantime, this episode is about recovering from people pleasing. And I have to share with you, I myself am actually a recovering people pleaser. I really believe highly sensitive people are prone to this trait. And I myself am a highly sensitive person, or HSP, but it's not exclusive to highly sensitive people. We all have a deep desire to be loved, and people pleasing can be a result of fear that comes from that fear of not being loved, fear of disappointing others, fear of being judged when we make choices for ourselves or decisions for our lives. And sometimes those fears can get in the way of honoring what we truly want in our heart and soul because we're so afraid of disappointing a parent or a friend or what other people might think of a bold choice in our life. And so moving past that and really learning to sit with a decision or a choice, no matter how small, and really tune into your heart and soul about what you actually want and letting go of what other people might think is an art form, and it takes practice, but it can be life changing. So let's talk for a minute about some of the ways that people pleasing shows up in our lives. And this all used to be me so much, and I've done so much work around it. And I'm actually really proud of myself. And it's not that I'm perfect. I mean, every now and then I do find myself maybe being tempted to make a decision based on what other people in my life might think. But then now I catch myself and I'm like, wait a minute. And I know in my heart that the people who truly love me and are meant to be in my life are going to support me and love me, even if they don't totally agree with all my choices and decisions. And you know what? That's their issue anyway, right? That's not my issue. The only person I am responsible for pleasing and honoring when it comes to my personal choices is me. And so here are some ways people pleasing is kind of sneaky and shows up in your life. And we may not even notice it, right? And these all used to be me so much. So the first one is saying yes to something when your heart is really telling you no. And you say yes to avoid disappointing someone or disappointing other people. This could be yes to an event or something that you really don't want to go to. This could be yes to something someone is trying to put on your plate and you don't have room for one more thing on your plate, but you just don't want to let that person down or have them be upset with you for saying no. And sometimes it takes strength and it does take willingness to disappoint people. And sometimes being true to yourself actually takes being willing to piss some people off. And that is a hard truth that comes around this. But again, like I said earlier, 9 times out of 10, 90% of the time, this is their issue, right? So another way that people pleasing can sneak up in our life and kind of drag us down is in the form of anxiety over our decisions. When we have a lot of anxiety around a choice or a decision in our life, a lot of times that comes from worrying about what other people might think about your choice or decision. And then that can cause anxiety to rise up, right? Also, there's analysis paralysis that can sneak in. And then the people pleasing part of not wanting to disappoint others really can take over. But when we can be aware of it, like I said earlier, I did a lot of work around learning to catch myself in these patterns, and it makes all the difference. So when you feel anxiety rising around a decision or a choice you're going to make, really take a minute to examine where that's coming from. It can be so helpful and insightful. And sometimes it can even help you really see the forest through the trees in making a decision. All right. Another way that this shows up, and this used to be a big one for me, is taking on too much or overextending yourself to try to make everyone happy, taking away from your own interests and affecting your own self care. Many moms can probably relate to this, but taking on too much in your life and then feeling stressed out about it and exhausting yourself, that often comes from, again, not wanting to say no to things when people try to put stuff on your plate or ask you to go places or do things, and from not wanting to disappoint others. But the bottom line is, if we want to take the best care of ourselves and experience a life in the way we dream of experiencing it, we must learn to say no to the things that are not either fitting into our schedule or not resonating with our heart and our mind and our soul, right? So important. And this, by the way, is going to tie into our Joy School habit at the end of the show today that we're going to talk about in just a little bit. So stay tuned for that. But it is just so important to remember that we're not here to people please all the people in our life. Now, that's not to say don't do kind things and nice things for others. And that's not to say don't consider others when you're making your choices, right? You can consider them, but considering people and making choices because of what other people might think or how they might judge you or out of fear are two different things. At the end of the day, the person who really needs to be happy with your choices is you. This took me so long to learn. When you focus on making choices that are aligned with the life you desire, you will truly find that the right people are aligned with those choices as well. And even if they don't agree or it doesn't make them thrilled, you have to just be confident and know that they're going to love you anyway so that you can let go of that fear, right? So, what are some of the ways that we can heal this and teach ourselves to really be mindful about being true to our own heart when it comes to making choices and decisions in our life and not people pleasing? Well, the first one is boundaries. So, I've talked about boundaries before on the show, and they are so important for our health and happiness and creating our best life. And one of the most important things when you decide on boundaries, right? Things you're going to say no to, things you're no longer going to do or tolerate in your life, you have to really memorize your boundaries. You have to memorize them and make them part of your DNA. And this takes practice and being super mindful because sometimes we can set a boundary and then it goes right out the window as soon as somebody asks us or makes us a request that crosses that boundary, right? So taking a pause when you receive an invite to something, for example, to ask yourself what you really feel before you answer, and then being confident and okay with saying no or disappointing people now and then, and saying no with grace and gratitude. You can say no with gratitude and in graceful ways and in kind and lovely ways that actually don't let people down at all. And so being confident in that and practicing that is really an important part of healing the behavior of people pleasing, right? And I had to do a lot of work around this. Once I started setting boundaries in my life, in order to keep them from flying out the window, I really had to memorize them and then repeat them often, many times in my own heart and mind. And then recognizing those situations when they would pop up and thinking to myself, okay, this is a boundary here. How am I going to stick to this? Right. So, another way we can work to heal this is raising your personal standards and knowing exactly what your standards are and then aligning your choices and actions according to those standards. And this is something else I've talked about on the show before. There is nothing wrong with having high standards. And this doesn't mean don't be super grateful and happy for your life as is, but knowing what you deserve and having high standards that align with the life you desire is so important. That is part of actually being grateful for the life that you're given. And like memorizing your boundaries and sticking to those, when you memorize your absolute musts, your absolute personal standards when it comes to certain things, even if it's just that you absolutely do not drink bottled water anymore. You don't want those microplastics in your body. You don't want to contribute to the landfills with the plastic bottles. And then sticking to that, right? It could be any sort of personal standard that you want to create in your life. Maybe it's the type of people that you want to hang around. Maybe it's something going on in your career that you want to shift. You want to raise your standard around. Whatever it is, maybe it is putting more effort into getting ready each day and looking and feeling your best, right? Raising those standards. And when you raise your own personal standards and you know what they are and you align your choices and actions accordingly, it becomes so much easier not to make choices and do actions to people please others, to please other people, because you know that those choices and actions are aligned with your standards. So that's a great way to inspire some healing around this area as well. Plus, it's just a great way to elevate your life. Having your set of personal standards and knowing what they are. What are the things that you want? What are the things that you love in your life that you want to have more often? Make them part of your standards. All right. Another way is recognizing when a problem is someone else's to take care of. This is a big one because when you have a tendency to be a people pleaser, which I still do now and then, I catch myself, but I used to be perpetually this way. It is very tempting to think that we always have to clean up everybody else's messes. But when we can recognize that when a mess or a problem is absolutely someone else's to take care of, and know that they will likely grow and benefit from taking care of that mess, right? So there are benefits to that. Then it becomes a lot easier to just let them do it. Let it be their problem. It's not your job to be the world's garbage cleaner upper. Let people be responsible for their own messes. And I used to be the one who would want to jump in all the time and help everybody else with their messes and clean things up and take charge of it all. And in the meantime, things in my own life would fall away or fall into a mess, right? Because I'm not present to take care of my own messes because I'm trying to clean up everybody else's. And so really recognizing when something is not your circus, not your monkeys, and sometimes that's even just a great phrase, not my circus, not my monkeys, letting it go and knowing that it is not your job to always clean up everybody else's garbage and mess. And that doesn't mean don't be helpful. And that doesn't mean don't jump in now and then if you have the time and the bandwidth and it's something that you know you can offer some help with, right? Or if it's someone you love and you can see that they're kind of falling apart and they really need help. Of course, that's a different situation. What I'm talking about here is letting go of the habit of automatically defaulting to wanting to clean up everybody's messes all the time, right? Because there's definitely a difference there. And being more mindful about it can be very, very healing. And also, sometimes when something truly is not your problem and you know the other person is going to benefit from figuring it out themselves, it feels so good just to let go of it. It really does. And you'll be proud of yourself when you start doing this. It's a great feeling. So, like I said, knowing the difference between doing things for other people out of genuine love and kindness and when you're doing them just to avoid disappointing them because you're afraid of what they might think if you don't. That is a skill and it takes a bit of work to get good at. But once you commit to it, it really is so healing and so freeing in big, big ways. All right. So I hope you have found that relatable. I think everybody on, like, let's say a scale of 1 to 10 in some way is a bit of a people pleaser now and then. So whether you're a 1 or a 2 or a 9 or a 10, like I used to be, I mean, I would say now I'm probably about a 3-ish. Sometimes I'm a 4, sometimes I'm a 1. Every once in a while, I'm in the mood to be a 0, and you better watch out. And every now and then, I fall back into maybe I have a moment where I'm an 8 or a 9, but I usually really try to catch myself and be mindful and hover around the 2 to 3, right? So just being super mindful and your journal can be helpful with this or looking at your calendar is a great indicator of people pleasing. And, that being said, that brings us to today's Joy School habit. And this is the part of the show where I share a small habit that can have big payoff. So today's Joy School habit is around the first or so of each month, take a 5-minute window to make a date with your calendar and sit down and look at your calendar for the month and see if there's anything there you need to let go of, or if it's missing something important to you. Are you missing a lunch date with a friend? Do you need to get that logged onto your calendar? Paying attention to the way we schedule our life is a superpower. There's a quote I posted quite a while back that said, "Is your schedule too full to live fully?" I'm going to say that again because it's so powerful. Is your schedule too full to live fully? That is a great question to ask yourself when you sit down each month for your little calendar date. Really try for the first of each month, but it could be the day before or the day after, whatever works. And just take 5 minutes each month. Make this a habit. Look at your calendar, see if there's something you need to let go of. See if there's something really important to you that makes your life sing that is missing from your schedule and get it in there. Such an important thing to be super mindful. And just doing this monthly or even quarterly. I find it's easier to do monthly, but there are a lot of people who like to schedule themselves out quarterly. For me, that's a little difficult. I'm a little bit more of a, hey, let's go next week kind of person, or even let's go tomorrow kind of person. But whatever works for you, everybody's different. But the most important thing in here is to create a regular date, create the habit of a regular date of sitting down with your calendar and looking at what you need to let go of, what you need to say no to, what you need to remove, and what you need to add to it. All right, my friends. If you enjoyed this episode, I would so love to hear from you over on Instagram or Facebook or any of my social media communities. And please consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. They mean so much. They truly do help the show, and they help other people find the show who might also enjoy it. And of course, I read them all. And I'm so grateful to everybody who's left a review so far. Thank you so much. And once again, thank you for being here with me. I love you all so much. And remember, you have the power to create more amazing days. And more amazing days add up to a pretty amazing life. Have a beautiful week, my friends, and I will be back with you soon.